So, map number 2, going down on Daedalus Point. I'd imagine that this was Snute's map choice because it's a good map for Zerg, and I'll touch on that in a minute. Spawning down in the bottom right hand position as the green Protoss player, representing ESC, JackO. And his opponent to the top left, the red Zerg, representing Liquid, Snute. Daedalus Point. Now, why would I say that this is a solid map for Zerg players? Well, if you'd asked me when Daedalus Point first came out, I would have just laughed, pointed at you, and chuckled a little bit and be like, bro, have you seen this ramp? But this isn't the case anymore. It's still quite a big ramp, but it's defendable. The only trouble with it is it's so far away from where a natural nexus comes. There's no ability to Photon Overcharge to reach around to the wall off, which makes it a bit harder to defend. That's the first problem with it. The second problem with it is the third base for Protoss. Look at how open this is. This is like nearly Star Station level of open. And having a lot of open space favours Zerg, because force fields become less effective. Snute again, going for that 15 spawning pool. JackO did scout really early on. And this may make Snute a little bit cautious about what his opponent has planned, if there's any trickery, any cannon rushes en route. So Snute just moves an Overlord over here, keeps full vision of his natural, and goes, right, JackO, I'm keeping an eye on this probe. I know these probes can do nasty things to me, so I'm just going to stay on top of it. JackO though, he's not doing anything crazy, just going for a very economic Nexus first build. Going to be focusing for the mid game, maybe a 2-base timing. Snute, however, he's coming in. Floating on through, going, yep, there comes down a forge. Don't have to worry about that, and boom, Nexus. Snute now knows everything. And by everything, I mean everything that's happening in this game, not like he is the personification of Google all of a sudden. The probe, doing a nice little job of blocking momentarily, but Snute on top of that forces it away and happily secures up his hatchery, starting at his natural. Couple of Lings now going to be forcing back the probe, which is coming back on up. He's going to get found. He's on patrol, come on. Snute just doesn't seem to care though. Just chilling. He's like, yep, cool probe. I'm glad you like your day. The probe also not really doing his job. He's there ready to block the third, or he should have been, but the drone just slips on by. Meanwhile, Snute just going to try and get these 4 Lings in. Photon Cannon is about 2/3 done. Gonna actually force an emergency pylon there just to stop these Lings getting through, but once the cannon has been completed, there's no way they'll get through. So cancel that additional gateway, and also on the second pylon will keep things nice and safe. But still, 112 minerals lost through cancellations, not really ideal. Snute droning heavily still at the moment, hasn't taken a gas as of yet, and this gas is a lot later than the previous game. The reason that gas is coming down at such a later point is because he knows that with a Nexus first opening rather than a gateway expand, he should be fine and safe against earlier pressure. There's nothing really aside from a cannon rush that a Protoss player can throw at him when he'd need speed super urgent. It's more important he gets this third hatch up so he can keep a base above his opponent. JackO though hasn't really revealed his hand as of yet. No sign of a +1 being researched. He is sitting on 2 gases, as Snute sees with this Overlord. Nor is there any form of tech. There's no robotic facility, Stargate, additional gateways, Twilight Council, anything. So it's all pretty much what's in his mind at the moment as to what he's going to do, as opposed to something we can see. But it gets revealed. Stargate coming down. And in quite a cool position. This is a relatively tough spot to try and scout. JackO clearly just keeping a good eye on everything, or wanting to stick to a pretty similar build, and keeping a good eye on what he's doing, and actually saying, okay, I'm going to play a similar playstyle to game number 1, just with a minor adjustment, and see how that fares for me, as opposed to trying something completely different. And he did actually say in the lobby himself that it didn't go amazingly well for him in game number 1, so I can kind of understand him wanting to try a similar build, but just trying to execute it more precisely. May not be though, and it's indeed going to be very different getting down that Oracle rather than the Phoenix. So harassment heavy play is what JackO is going to be looking for up against Snute in this game. Snute though, he's just on the ball, getting down some spore crawlers. He knows that his opponent has favoured a Stargate. The other thing as well is Snute's been poking up and keeping a good eye on what his opponent's got. He's going to see that the Forge is not researching. And as such, there's no +1 or anything. And JackO is really mixing things up. A second Stargate and a Fleet Beacon. That means one thing and one thing only. Sky Toss is going to be coming through. A lot of players have looked at the benefit of going for very quick Tempest. And I think that's not a bad decision up against Snute's Swarm Host style play in the last game. Specifically, Snute's reliance on those Spore Crawlers to be safe from air. Tempest, very good at dealing with that static defense, and as such may just solve the problem. Unfortunately for this Oracle, it's not going to be able to find a way in. There's Spore Crawlers positioned nicely. Gets 2 drone kills though, so he hasn't been a complete failure in life, just not perhaps as successful as you'd like to be. Couple of lings to sing around here outside for Snute, and JackO has become my hero because he's making carriers. I have suddenly got so much more excited because there's carriers. Oh, yeah. I absolutely love carriers. They make me so happy. They make me the happiest person in the world because they're awesome. They're amazing, and they're not built enough. This Oracle, 5 kills now, so he's still doing pretty good. He's limping a little bit. And I suppose limping is the wrong term to use for something that flies and doesn't have legs. But he's looking a bit worse for wear, down to just 22 HP. Probably not going to be able to get much more done. JackO though, he's got Graviton Catapults coming through, but he's been scouted. Snute knows the carriers are on the way, so he starts the Spire. Corruptor's the correct response to carriers. Always will be. Always are. They're just so effective. Carriers, of course, being massive units, Corruptors just shred them to pieces. The carry production, though, coming out nicely. JackO, I really hope he's got a way to make this work. It would make me such a happy caster. Meanwhile, the Forge getting chrono boosted when it's not researching anything. That, in the nicest way, is just a slip-up. There's no benefit to chrono boosting a building that isn't doing anything. Meanwhile, Snute's Spire, 2/3 done. He's still sitting on Lair Tech. He's got a 4th base, though. That's just finished up. Transferring a couple of drones over to there. The Oracle again, trying to find a way in, but is unsuccessful in doing that. Just gets forced back by the Spore and the Queen. Carrier count going up to 4 now. JackO committing to this, making a scary army. How is Snute going to respond? Well, his Spire's about to finish. He's got a huge amount of minerals and gas, and that's probably all about to be spent. There we go, 12 Corruptors all on their way, plus 1 attack also coming through. With the 8 gases, that's really solid. This Oracle actually finding a nice little route in here. Gets a couple more kills. 7 kills on that Oracle. Probably makes it quite cost effective at this stage. Especially if it's able to rack up a couple more kills. A few more Spore Crawlers coming down here. Snoop deciding, yep, this 4th base. That's going to be safe. He's up at 88 drones too. So he's got a huge income. Look at that difference. 2.4k minerals and just under 1,000 gas a minute. Compared to 1.5 and 500 over on JackO's side. The corrupt count is skyrocketing. The carrier count, unfortunately, not being created at the same speed. Carriers, of course, being such a colossal unit, do take quite a while to make. They actually take what seems like forever to Protoss players. Maybe one of the reasons carriers are made too often. 4 carriers, though, getting ready to go forward. No more in production as of yet. The Corruptor's still looking pretty scary. There's 18 of them up against these 4 carriers. The Stalkers, though, can actually focus down those Corruptors pretty damn quick. So it's something that I have no doubt JackO is going to be trying to prioritize. But with a huge flood of Zerglings coming out from Snute, he should be able to deal with this ground army relatively fast. Swarm Hosts, they're also on their way. Obviously, they can't shoot up, they can't attack the carriers directly, but they can keep the ground army at bay, allowing those Corruptors just to get a little bit closer up, start dealing a little bit more damage. And well, it's now all up to Snute. Is he going to be able to get this in a good position? Well, the Corruptors can't be seen yet. The pylon's trying to come down, get taken down by the Speedlings. The carrier's interceptors dealing some nice damage, but in come the Corruptors. They're waiting to try and find a nice way to attack. They don't want to engage by these Stalkers, because the Stalkers can focus them down very quickly. Needs the Zerglings to engage simultaneously. 4 carriers deal a huge amount of damage, so that's something that needs to be careful for. But in now come the Corruptors. The Zerglings are on the ground. 1 carrier falls. The 2nd carrier falls. The Zerglings are starting to get taken out though, and while the carriers are dying, the ground army hasn't yet found a response. Down goes all of the carriers. That threat has been taken out. So is the Mothership Core about to fall. And that leaves only some Stalkers, a couple of Zealots, and up against a lot of Lings, and of course Locusts. That's not too scary. The Swarm Host though, they're running in, they're dying off, more need to burrow up quickly. The Locusts now getting some nice work done. The 4th base still standing for Snute. He's corrupting those Stalkers, so they take bonus damage, which is always a good move. But JackO, having to back away now, was unsuccessful in his attack, killed 10 workers in total, which isn't that substantial, and he doesn't have a 3rd base behind it, so he's in a bit of a tough spot here. His Stalkers trying to do as much as possible. Bit of a missed rally on those Swarm Hosts there, coming out from Snute. A few Zealots heading into the natural base. They're getting a surprisingly large amount of work done. This hatchery is without doubt in danger of falling. There is a good number of Lings on the way through though, and with the Locusts, Snute should be able to keep things looking steady. The Stalkers alone now, taking a lot of fire, as are those Zealots. Not too effective up against the Locusts. And with that, JackO GG's out, and Snute was able to defend that cool carrier play pretty easily. And so he advances forward into the round, or the quarterfinals, 2-0.